Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The A Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Hello, guys, and welcome to today's episode. This is Rod at A Better Way to Farm, where we improve yields and increase profits, and I am wound up today. I have a topic that I'm passionate about. I have a co-presenter who is passionate about it, and he is an individual who I have a ton of respect for. He is meticulous in his studies and the things that he does, and he brings so much value to the team, and I sincerely appreciate him. Curt, thank you for tuning in from Illinois. I know you're busy, but thanks for your time today.
Oh, I appreciate you inviting me on here.
So specifically, guys, what we want to talk about today is nutrient levels in the soil. It has to do with that age-old story, oh, you're going to mine your soils out. And it has to do with a really hard dose of reality. You guys know that we subscribe to Dr. Mulvaney's train of thought that there is a lot of nutrients in the soil. In the top 6 inches, he says if we ash it and burn it to its elemental form, that we're going to find about 6,000 pounds of phosphorus on the average. He says that in the top 6 feet of soil in the Midwest on the average, we're going to find between 360,000 pounds and 480,000 pounds of K. Now, we've had some people on social media, keyboard warriors, were like, that's not right. It's only 40,000 pounds. And my response to that is, if it's only 40,000 pounds, Curt, that's probably enough. That'll do you. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, that'll do you.
And so we were at a field day at Curt's place over in Illinois, and Curt had what I consider to be a very genius idea. Curt, what did you come up with while we were there?
Well, while we were digging a root pit, and I'm gonna divert just a little bit, but while we were digging a root pit, a good friend, team member of ours, Andrew, come up with the idea that why haven't we ever run soil tests clear to the bottom of the root pit? And I kind of looked at him, and he kind of caught me off guard, and I'm like, well, let's do it. So that was kind of where this whole thing started. Is I took off with an idea, and it was presented to me, and run with it, and we started compiling data. And is it ever eye-opening?
It really is. And you know, of course, where I'm going to start, Curt, is I want to start with potassium, because we've got a group of people out here that are bent on applying a lot of potassium. And Dr. Mulvaney would say in his potassium paradox talk that oftentimes the more potassium we put on, the less we have available. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It has to do with the ground being like a big accordion. And when it's moist or it doesn't shrink up and be compacted, its potassium's more readily available. When it dries up or we get more compaction, potassium less available. Therefore, we have less to get a hold of. And so we subscribe to that because we believe that potassium chloride can make the soil actually tighten up. And we've seen that over and over again. But that being said, we know we need a lot of K to grow a good plant. And I believe that it's a health, that is a nutrient responsible for health. That is the nutrient that is lacking for a lot of people, not lacking in their dirt, lacking in their ability to get it into their plant. And Curt, let's talk specifically. We've only ran 3 of these, okay? One at your farm, one in Southeast Iowa, and one in Central South Dakota. We have 2 more sets of results that are due to come in here in the next 10 days. One would be from Northeast Iowa, and another will be for over in Illinois again. But on the 3 that we have, it's a small sample for now, but we're going to get a bunch more of these samples. But on the samples that we have right now, talk to us about the range of potassium available. This is not what they ash it. This is extractable potassium. What's the range that you've seen so far in that top 6.5 feet?
Right now, we're seeing on a high fertility farm that had a lot of livestock manure for like talking 40 years of cattle feedlot manure. That farm hasn't had any manure since roughly the mid 80s. We're still looking at plant available by the soil test over 7,800 pounds.
7,800 pounds, not total, just extractable.
Extractable in that top 6 feet. And that range from the data we're looking at runs from there down to just short of 4,000 pounds.
So we have a range, give me that range again, about 4,000 up to what?
Roughly 4,000 pounds up to right around 7,800 pounds.
That's available. Amazing. That is an amazing amount of potassium there. So then the question becomes, can you get roots down 6 feet? Curt, talk to us about your experience and your root pits there on your farm. What depth are you seeing roots go to?
This year, when we dug things up, we were seeing roots at, I believe we were down 66 inches. Last year, I did a pit on our own there. And if I recall correctly, we were having roots at about 55 inches a year ago. So we went down an extra 11 inches this year and was able to tie into more nutrients.
What do you attribute that extra 11 inches, almost a foot of depth to?
Even though we had a pretty dry season here, we've gone with a targeted in-furrow fertility program that's tailored to that field. And I do believe that placing those nutrients where they need to be, we're kickstarting that plant off early to grow roots. And then we're getting it to, as we foliar feed, we're getting them plants to keep setting roots deeper.
Deeper and deeper. Stimulate that plant, stimulate the root growth, let what happens below the surface drive what happens above, and then great things will happen. So that's amazing. You know, Curt, it's funny, I had the chance to work with Francis Childs for a lot of years. And Francis, man, if you went with him, you better love to run a shovel because you're going to be digging. And he was way more concerned. You know, he said when the plant was 2 foot tall, you better have more than 2 foot of root growth below. Always more concerned to go down below in the soil. So let's talk about, I'll come back to that, but let's talk about the other nutrient levels, because I think you found some surprises in there. Maybe what were 2 or 3 of the most surprising things that you've seen in these soil tests going all the way down to 6 foot or 66 inches?
One of the really interesting things I found is the surface pH. Now we're talking that top 0 to 6 window, maybe 0 to 8, depending on what guys are testing, but that top, we're going to say 0 to 6 in this situation. The pH is adjustable and it can move, but as we get deeper and deeper and deeper, the pH of the soil doesn't really move. It stays very stable.
Yep. What are you finding there for pHs down deep?
Here in the pit that we did here, we run 6.6 at the top. We got down to 6.7, 30 to 40 inch range. When we got down to 76 inches, we were back at 6.6 again.
Interesting. Talk to me about phosphorus levels, because I got to be honest, I knew in my heart, I felt in my heart that we were going to find a lot of K. I did. In my heart, I believe that phosphorus would actually be pretty much confined to the top foot. Wasn't true. Tell us what you found, what you're seeing in regards to P1 and P2 phosphorus levels.
P1 levels in our situation, because of all the livestock manure, we're very high. I mean, we know it doesn't move in the soil much, but we're high. I mean, we're borderline toxic high. Even when we got down into that bottom sample of that root pit, if you look at the table of ratings and you look at where our levels are, we're still very high, which surprised me. We don't see that in all of the samples locations that we've got, but we're seeing a lot of available phosphate. And even the P2 numbers were very high in ours. And in the other pits, that surprised me because I even seen those P2 numbers come up as we got into deeper depths on some of those other pits.
Say that again. So, what happened there?
As we got looking in like the Iowa pit, the P2 numbers, as the deeper we got, the higher the numbers got to a certain point, and then they leveled off. So it's available. You got to be able to get to it.
So talk to me, like you said, they leveled off. What were the levels on the P1 and the P2, say at a 5 or 6 foot depth in Iowa?
In Iowa, 5 to 6 foot P2 levels were in the 90s.
Whoa.
Which was really high. You may have an ag retailer telling you they're not, but that's really high. It just, you got to get that table of ratings and find out where you are. The P1s were really low, possibly because of some pH levels that we're not going to correct at that depth, but the nutrients are there.
Well, I think that what we've learned from what I looked at, I'm letting you go through all these because I don't have them in front of me today, and you are the expert on this, and you're a far superior number cruncher to me, and I know that. So, but here's what I believe, Curt. I believe part of it, yes, the pH was higher there at Chris's. And how did Scott's compare to that, by the way, before I finish that sentence?
Up in South Dakota, we seen the similar thing. P1 levels were lower, P2 levels were higher, and increasing as we went deeper and deeper into that pit.
And here's what I believe is that pH goes up, and it does when you get down deeper. Obviously, you don't have oxygen down there. You have a pH that's not conducive to bugs.
Correct.
And so I believe that the life in the soil, we have great soil, we have great nutrient levels deep in the soil. We don't have life there. And I don't think that's a reflection on anybody, because we're the first ones that we've been working with that have been able to get roots. And I believe here's how this is going to be. Well, Curt, I always say, find out how life works and get on the right side of it, right? And so
Correct.
here's what I know. When you grow roots down deeper and you get those pathways opened up, next year and the year after, you go down another 11 inches. And the year after, you go a little bit deeper, you go a little bit deeper. All of a sudden, we're creating space for oxygen to go in there. As we do that, I believe we will see the soil, instead of being alive in the top 6 inches, like some people have minimal health in the top 6 inches and nothing below that, some maybe 12 or 18. I think we're going to see that come alive. Let's talk specifically. You and I have a theory, but I think it's a fairly accurate theory. You believe the average roots go down about how far, Curt, on the average farm?
On the average farm, I would say they're probably driving roots 24, maybe 36 inches, because I think there's too much compaction.
Yep.
And I don't think there's enough soil biology around.
And part of that has to do with the nutrient really jumped there somewhere between 3 and 4 foot. Is that P1 phosphorus?
Yeah, as we're looking at it, like in any of these, I mean, it doesn't matter which data set we look at. The P2 numbers especially jump when we get at or below 42 inches.
And I believe that's probably because we have driven roots down about that far, and that's where we've been pulling from. We've continued to pull from just that depth. And now all of a sudden we can ignite this, and we've got another 3 feet of soil there that we can access, that we can get. I mean, I'm going to have Mason, he's getting ready to pull his. I want him to pull his all the way down to 9 feet, because he had roots over 9 feet deep 2 years in a row. And so he's really been doing everything he can to drive those. And it has been astounding to watch what happens there. As we start looking at this, it's kind of just like somebody just bringing you some new nutrient-rich soil for free, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a whole untapped resource down there. I guess what kind of scares me is, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus on this one, but as we look at big ag, as we look at generalized fertilizer recs, everybody's thinking in this 0 to 6 window. That's not where our roots are.
No.
And I think we have to seriously step back and change our thought process on what's truly under our feet, and quit thinking in that 0 to 6, 0 to 8, whatever you're sampling, and really focus on how do we drive roots deeper. And then we can translocate some of those nutrients back to the surface, so we can recycle those next year and the year after and the year after. I don't see us running out of nutrients in our fertile farmland. I see a lot of potential that we're just not tapping into.
Absolutely. It's all about driving those roots and getting it down there and taking advantage. And then, like you said, as long as we're not removing the residue, we're actually in the recycling process. We're going to bring those up from down deep. They're going to be in the stover, and then we're going to use the stock digester and get those babies to break down. And that's how we're going to move those nutrients from that 5 foot, 6 foot depth into that top 6 inches. And when we get that part figured out, all of a sudden some good things can happen. Curt, as a result of what you've learned here, and we're in the preliminary stages, we're going to see this through. Guys, stay tuned. This is a work in process, and I'm excited for the next 3 years to be doing this.
Is very preliminary, yes. There's a lot to here, and we're going to continue with it.
But we are going to start doing this in a lot more geographic locations. We're going to do this for a long term. But it is astounding to know that somewhere out here between roughly what you're saying is 4,000 to 8,000 pounds of K. But as a result of what you've learned so far, what are you going to do differently, or what are you going to strive to do better going forward?
We're going to continue pushing roots. I mean, we're going to continue feeding the crop what it needs. We're doing that through complete soil testing, complete comprehensive soil testing. We're looking at everything that we can test for. We're even looking at micronutrients down at these depths. We're finding things there that's interesting too.
Share a couple things with the listeners here about what it is that you're seeing in micros that caught your eye.
Iron levels seem to be high pretty much when we start getting down there, pretty much everywhere. Copper's hanging in there. The boron gets weak, but it's available. There's still a lot to uncover here, but depending on where you are, zinc levels really move around a lot. But we're not just doing an NPK test when we're pulling these. We're looking at everything all the way to the bottom of the root pit.
Yeah, these are not cheap tests. These are not some, hey, how many tests can I get for a $20 bill here running the Malik 3 for NPK? These are the S3C tests that we are really after because we want to know. That's the whole thing, what's here. And that'll help us make better decisions as we go forward. So I appreciate that. Well, Curt, I'm going to wrap this thing up here. I've taken a lot of your time, and I'm sorry. I appreciate your tuning in. But closing thoughts you'd like to share with the people who are on the podcast?
Don't be afraid to look at ways to do things better. I mean, we've switched from a dry to a liquid program. We started doing root pits on our own farms. We started doing this comprehensive testing to identify what our limiting factors are. We've got opportunities for guys to learn about that coming up. I'm just looking forward to more data to look through, more to compile. What are we seeing in a bigger picture across all of the Corn Belt?
Absolutely. And it's going to be great. It really is. Well, guys, we're going to wrap this up. I just want to say thank you to Curt for spearheading this, for working with Andrew to get the bright idea to do it, and for crunching all the numbers for us. He's going to continue to do that on our team. That's typically what happens when someone starts a project. That's their baby to take through to fruition. And we have a lot of people that do that. And if we're always looking for people that like to help us, and if you enjoy that kind of stuff, reach out. But guys, we really do appreciate you. I want to close with this. My son, when he was in high school, there was a gal there, and her wisdom at 17 years old was just amazing to me. And she had a bumper sticker in her locker. Of course, she got in trouble for that, but she had a bumper sticker stuck to the door of her locker, and it said, "You laugh at me because I'm different, and I laugh at you because you are all the same." Guys, it's okay to look for a different way. It's okay to not be just like everybody else. It's okay to figure out how to do this in a way that makes the end user more money. Guys, we thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to talking to you each and every week. And as always, we hope you're having a better day.